Welcome to solverfy.
We're essentially trying to prove the percent body fat equation. We're going to use the definition of density and specific gravity, and then we're going to call a fraction f the fat fraction. And so we can say that first, the mass of the fat would be equaling m times f. The total mass times the fat fraction, this would be equal to the volume of fat times the density of fat. We can then say that the mass of the fat-free portion would be equaling the total mass times 1 minus the fat fraction. And this would be equaling to the volume of fat-free times the density of fat-free. We can then say that the density of the body is equaling x, which we know that x would be the entire body's density times the density of water. And we can then say that this would be equal to the mass, the total mass, divided by the total volume. And so this would be equaling the mass of the fat plus the mass of the fat-free. This would be divided by the volume of the fat plus the volume of the fat-free. And so we can then say that the density of the body is going to be equaling, we can say the total mass m divided by the mass times the fat fraction f divided by the density of fat plus m multiplied by 1 minus the fat fraction f divided by the density of fat-free. And so we can then simplify this. This is going to be equaling to 1 divided by the fat fraction divided by the density of fat plus 1 minus the fat fraction divided by the density of the fat-free. Of course, here we're just canceling out all the m's. And so we can then say that the fat fraction, solving for the fat fraction f, this is going to be equaling the density of fat times the density of fat-free divided by x, the entire body's density, times the density of water, multiplied by the density of fat-free minus the density of fat. This would be minus also the density of fat divided by the density of fat-free minus the density of fat. And so we can then further solve for f. We can actually then substitute in for all of our values. So the fat fraction would be, we have 0.90 grams per cubic centimeter multiplied by 1.10 grams per cubic centimeter. This would be divided by x times 1.0 grams per cubic centimeter. So this would be 0.90 grams per cubic centimeter would be the density of fat. 1.1 grams per cubic centimeter would be the density of the fat-free. X would be the entire body's density. 1.0 grams per cubic centimeter would be the density of water, multiplied by 0.20 grams per cubic centimeter, the difference between the density of fat and fat-free, and then minus 0.90 grams per cubic centimeter divided by 0.20 grams per cubic centimeter. And so we have that f is equaling 4.95 over x minus 4.5. We know that then the body fat percentage would simply be equal to the fat fraction multiplied by 100. And so we have that the body fat percentage would be equaling 495 over the entire body's density minus 450. This would be us essentially proving the equation given in the problem statement. That is the end of the solution. Thank you for watching.